Soundstripe. Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Welcome in, everybody, to Lock and Live College Football Week 11 edition with Uncle Phil and Smooth Andy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this Saturday morning. Uncle Phil, Smooth Andy, how are you guys doing this morning?
Outstanding, man. Really pumped for this weekend. Excited about it. Like the lines. Typically put about 6 picks in my notebook this morning. I put 8. I just couldn't narrow it down. Really like the games a lot this weekend. Smooth Andy, what about yourself, man?
I am. This is a little bit of a kind of a light week for me. I think a little bit. Not a lot of. Yeah, one thing in particular, I normally have. I have one of my metrics is unpopular favorites, and I only had 2 this week. Normally, I have like 15, so it's kind of that's one metric that got very sparse attention this week. So we'll see, but I should have 3, 6, no, about 10 plays today. I think looks like.
Okay. Yeah, this I kind of felt the same way going into it. After 10 weeks of this, obviously we're in week 11. We're in the final 4 weeks of the regular season. I've gone, at least my notebook's gone. I've won 7 out of 10 weekends, so I'm counting on an 8th weekend here. So looking forward to it, Matt.
Love it. Well, if you like the weekend, I like the weekend. So let's get it started. Where are you heading first, Uncle Phil?
Yeah, look, I'm headed to Oxford. I'm playing one of the big games today. Ole Miss, Georgia. Everybody be watching on this game. Now they'll have a reason to bet it. Look, who wins this game? I don't know. But what I do believe I know is how this game starts. Ole Miss coming off the big win last week over Arkansas, really easy win for them, and then having the crowd behind them, the enthusiasm of the hometown crowd behind them should give them a boost, at least in the first half. Georgia, on the other hand, scores nearly 60% of their points in the second half. Really a slow starting team, really where Carson Beck hasn't really found his rhythm until the second half. Give me Ole Miss plus a half point in the first half. And the next one we're going to Nashville, where South Carolina's coming to visit day. Vandy's been this really frisky underdog that the public's love. Look, we made money last week. It was an easy cover for us. Not only did they cover the 7, it was either 7 or 7.5 points last week against Auburn. They actually won outright, which was massive for us last week. But, it's week to week. This week, I don't like the matchup. Vandy, had they not been playing such a terrible Auburn team last week, I'm not sure as much as they're beat up. The good story about Vandy is that Vandy is a good team when they're healthy at the first of the year. The problem with a lot of these teams, you saw it last week with Army, without their running back, without their quarterback last week, looked like a different team, looked like the Armies of old team. Vandy is not healthy right now. South Carolina is getting healthy. That line has moved up a few points during the week, and rightfully so. I'm on the right side. I know I am. I'm taking South Carolina minus 6.5 at Vandy as my second best bet.
Awesome stuff. And I got your notebook here. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional. Is that correct?
Yeah, 6 additional, including my bonus pick. Yeah, and I love my bonus pick this week. So, look, we've been hot on our bonus picks lately. I intend on continuing that today.
Awesome. Well, Smooth Andy, how about you? What are your 3 today?
I'm going to give 2 of my one's a 5-star pick or a 5-dog pick. The other one's a 4. I've got another 4, but I'm going to skip that one to go to a 2 that I got that I was kind of happy popped up on my radar. Start with the 5-dog. It's Maryland. Very uncomfortable making this bet, I have to admit. I think I've been on Maryland at least once and maybe twice earlier in the year, and I don't think I covered either one, so it's not a comfortable feeling. They haven't shown a lot of fight. They're playing Oregon, and it's and they're getting 23.5 points. So I'm looking for them to, for Oregon to overlook them and for them to maybe, break a touchdown here or there and kind of keep it close, and then or maybe backdoor cover at the end. We'll see. I could just hate myself at the end of the day for this one, but it is the one that shows up with the most indicators for me, so I'm going to do it. The next one I'm going to mention is Georgia Tech, which is a 4-dog indicator for me against Miami, Florida. Miami's getting all the bets, of course, because they're the U and everybody thinks they're back. I've been looking at, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the year, I've been looking all year for an opportunity to fade them and I just wasn't getting them. The numbers weren't working out to give me a bet on an opponent. Well, I've got it this week, so we'll see. Miami's undefeated, obviously. They got a lot to lose. Georgia Tech is a little frisky. I'm not quite sure how good they are. They upset FSU in week 1 and caught everybody's attention, or maybe it's week 2. Caught everybody's attention and kind of hasn't really shown much since then. And we know FSU is trash this year, so it was a less impressive win as the year goes on, but still not a terrible team. And finally, the one I really like, that I'm really happy for, another team that I've been looking to fade all year, but they haven't been very popular all year like they were last year, but now they're the bandwagon is starting to build, and that's Texas Tech against Colorado. Texas Tech is at home. Colorado's getting all the bets this week. Everybody's on board with Coach Prime again. They finally worked their way back into the conversation. But Texas Tech's a pretty good team. I think they're 6-3, if I'm not mistaken. They're just sort of flying under the radar because nobody really thinks about them in the Big 12 very much, even though a lot of the top tier programs have been pulled into the SEC. So give me Texas Tech here. I just like to fade the public, and I think the public is all over Colorado. So those are my 3. I'm going to recite one more time. It's Maryland. It is gosh, I didn't pick that one. Sorry, Georgia Tech, and then Texas Tech.
Alrighty, looking forward to watching those games for sure. Let's get to the questions. What do you guys say?
Yep.
Perfect. First on the line, we got Pierre from Twitter. He wants to know about G Tech Miami. I think he asked the question before you gave your pick, or Smooth Andy. Uncle Phil, do you have anything to say about that game?
Yeah, look, it's Miami's not going to be overlooking them after Mario Cristobal horribly mismanaged the clock last year, allowed Georgia Tech to win probably one of the most unbelievable finishes the entire last season. But look, all the picks you see on TV right now are Georgia Tech. It's a very popular dog on that one. I stayed away from it. But if I were playing it, I'd probably play Georgia Tech. But I just, especially after Miami did last week to Duke. I mean, Duke had that game all the way through midway through the fourth quarter, and then Miami woke up and covered the spread. If you had Duke last week, you got to be just sick to your stomach. It was a terrible beat last week. But I just stay away with it. Sometimes I just can't figure out this Miami team wants to play or doesn't want to play, and I'm not real sure, and it just depends on who shows up. Something tells me they might be a little bit motivated after last year's really gut-wrenching loss, but again, I'm staying away.
All right, thanks for the question, Pierre. Next up, we got Blake from Twitter. He says, any thoughts on the North Texas +6?
Smooth Andy, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I got a lean on North Texas. That was it. Just one indicator popped for me. I can't remember what. It might be that I think Army was getting all the bets. That might be it. But nope, that wasn't it. It was something else. Oh, it's betting against undefeated teams in November, and Army is still undefeated. Anyway, not enough for me. But if that's the way you're leaning, I'll tell you I lean that way as well.
Yeah, look, as long as Army's healthy, I mean, really don't know the injury to the quarterback for Army that was out last week. Is undisclosed injury. Not sure that they have the same reporting that the other conferences do. It doesn't sound like it. Obviously we had Army on one of our best bets last week. We pulled it off after one of our good listeners on here told us about the injury during the show. So clearly that, since I don't know the injury and I don't know the extent of it, I really couldn't play it. I mean, that line is going up. It's some really late move on Army. Typically the smart money the late money is the smart money. So if I played anything, I'd play Army, but just because I don't like just looking at the late money and following that blindly because I don't know the injury to the quarterback, I'm just staying away from it. But again, the late money is telling you it's Army's the side.
Alrighty. Well, Andrew from Dallas chimed in. He says Army QB Bryson Daly's back. He's on first half over 17.5. Any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, it's probably a pretty smart play. Again, if the quarterback, again, I just don't know the injury to that. And I don't know, again, we've seen Brady Cook get injured, quarterback from Missouri, and all of a sudden played through the pain. Even the doctors told him not to come back the end of the game where he got injured. And then he said he was playing again against Alabama, and he went out in the first quarter, and it was just a crap show from there. So it wasn't a good thing. So without knowing the injury, the Army quarterback, since again it's undisclosed, they don't follow the same reporting standards as the SEC. I'm staying away. I just let's see. Andrew's saying now said Army quarterback was apparently hospitalized with foot infection, released last Friday. Look, if he's healed and he's ready to play, then great. But again, I just didn't know that information until now, and again, I just don't know to the extent of how well he's healed up. So I'm staying away. I mean, you saw that Army. You saw that Army team really regress in scoring points when the backup quarterback came in. If their starting quarterback can't go the entire game, that line is going to fall. I mean, I think that Army and the over probably the side, but look, there's still 3 more weeks of football left. If he's good today, I'll watch the game and I'll play it next week.
Alrighty, good stuff, Uncle Phil. Next up, we got KXRT from YouTube. He says, does Indiana roll today? Really interesting game.
Smooth Andy, any thoughts?
I'm going to be on Michigan, and I'm not even remotely comfortable about it, but that's it. I think it's 14.5 at Oregon.
At Indiana.
I'm sorry, at Indiana. I'm sorry. Getting mixed up.
Yep.
But I will be on Michigan. They are going to show up in my Twitter and my tweet. Not 100% comfortable with it, but again, Indiana's still undefeated. They have survived a scare or two along the way, and I think they're a really good team, but I don't think that they're invulnerable to something like this, to a cover from a Michigan team that's down. I think Michigan, it might be a good way for them to sort of get their mojo back a little bit if they can at least show some heart against an undefeated Big Ten team, an unexpected undefeated Big Ten team. They're obviously going to play Ohio State later this year, and I assume they still have Penn State to come, I think, right? So So give me Michigan. I don't feel great about it. I think Indiana's a really impressive team, but my numbers say Michigan, so I'm on Michigan.
Yeah, it didn't make my big board. I just didn't like the number, but and then of course didn't make my big board. Didn't make the notebook. If I had to play, I would take the other side of it. I'd go with Indiana just because Michigan's lockdown corner Will Johnson is out for the game. He was a late scratch yesterday for the weekend. I think again, I don't like this Michigan team. If you followed me all year long, I've not been a believer in them. The public hey, will they beat USC? Well, USC's turned out to be absolute garbage this year. So I don't believe in this Michigan team. I do believe in this Indiana team, certainly in this spot. I think it's a long day for Michigan. I think Michigan gets their ears boxed today.
Could very well happen. That's always a nerve-wracking experience betting on a team isn't terribly good. I would just counter by saying I know Michigan is not very good this year, but everybody knows that now. I think going into the year there was a lot of belief that they went to they won the championship last year. They're going to be in the playoff again this year. Those dreams have been gone for a long time. So hopefully they're just playing for pride and to get to a bowl game and try to get something out of this season. So that's what I'm counting on. It's a bit of a, again, I do my numbers. I'm not really much on betting emotion, but that's what I'm hoping is what's going to motivate them today.
Sure. My counter to that would be I got the better coach, better quarterback, and I get the home field and Michigan's best players out for the day. So I would do that. But again, certainly understand your numbers have been rock solid over the years. Your track record speaks for itself. But for those reasons, I stayed away from it just because the number was a little high. Had it been 13.5, probably would have jumped on Indiana, but I left it where it is.
Definitely. Well, it should be a great game. Love Coach Cignetti. Next up, we got Rob. Rob says, do you like buying LSU to +3?
Smooth Andy, any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I'm on Alabama. I got that's a 2-dog bet for me as a favorite. I think I got them at 2.5. That's obviously not a huge play for me to have only a 2-dog play on that, but it popped up and I'm taking it. That seems to be a bit of a toss-up game. I actually think Alabama's a better team than LSU. I know LSU's loaded with talent, but Brian Kelly is something about his teams, whether he's at Notre Dame or LSU. It doesn't matter how great they recruit. He always finds a way to make them second tier in whatever league he's in. And I think that's the case now. DeBoer obviously struggled a little bit at Alabama as well, but I just think, my numbers are showing this is an Alabama game. But I'd be interested to know what you think, Uncle Phil, if you can, unless it's in your notebook. I don't know.
Yeah, no, not my notebook, but it did make my big board, and then I trimmed it. But I had LSU. LSU, again, 15-0 under their last night games. I like LSU's big-bodied wide receivers against this Alabama secondary. I think that's a good matchup, especially being a night game. Kind of tilts it for me in LSU's favor. But there is a question for me. I mean, look, I saw I had LSU against Texas A&M. Unfortunately, that didn't work out at the end of that first half. Nussmeier got his quarterback for LSU got his right foot stepped on by his offensive tackle. Couldn't really push off on it in the second half. Threw 3 interceptions. Looked like a completely different quarterback. I want to know how his ankle's doing, how his foot's doing on that, and see him play. I left it off because of that. But again, from a defensive side, LSU looked like they had never figured out had never seen the zone read in their life when Marcel Reed, backup quarterback for A&M, came in and just ran zone read after zone read, and LSU couldn't stop it. And I'm like, this is high school, guys. What are you not doing? And so, look, if they can't stop that, will they be able to stop Jalen Milroe? I don't know. That for those reasons, you can see some of the doubts that crept in with me of why I left it off. But I lean LSU but not strong enough to make my notebook.
Alrighty, good stuff. Thanks for the question, Rob. Let's keep it rolling, man. Great questions. This is a lot of fun.
Yep.
Next on the line, we'll go back to Andrew from Dallas because he gave us that great info on Army's quarterback. He says, how about the Holy War? BYU -3?
Smooth Andy, thoughts on that game?
Once again, I'm on the dog. Rather, I have a couple favorites this week. I always do, but only got 2 out of the 10, so 8 of them are dogs. So anytime you ask about a game, I either have no opinion or you can probably lean dog on me. I like this BYU team. They're undefeated. They've been very impressive. They're totally flying below the radar. I know they're not in they maybe haven't played a lot of top-notch teams, but very much under the radar. I think they're like 11th or 12th in the nation. Being undefeated, that's a bit of a slight, I think, to them. But this is a big game. This is Utah's Super Bowl. They're having an off season. Really like Whittingham, the coach. I'm surprised they've been having this off season, but this is a good chance for them to break the hearts of their biggest rival. That makes me feel comfortable about being on the dog. That said, they could lose by 30. I don't know, but my numbers say take Utah, so I'm on them.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. Look, it made my big board. I trimmed it. It didn't make my final notebook, but if I played it, I'd be playing Utah. Just one of those lines that kind of stinks. They're begging you to take BYU. I think Utah wins this. Obviously, Cam Rising being injured most of the season has really affected Utah's season. But for this game, I'd play that. But what did make my big board and then made my notebook was the total in this game, and I've got that in my notebook.
Sweet. Thanks, Andrew. Best of luck today. Let's keep going. We got a couple of questions. Tony, Cody, and KXRT. They all want to know Gophers versus Rutgers. Where do you guys stand on that one?
Smooth Andy, do you have any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I know that popped up on me. Let me find it here in my table. I have a lean on Rutgers. That was it. It popped up early in one of my metrics, and then I never got anything else up that verified it or pushed it over the edge. So lean Rutgers for me. Don't know much about either of these teams, although Minnesota, is a nice little sneaky good Big Ten team. Rutgers, they always come up and scare somebody every year, 2 or 3 teams sometimes. Kind of like Maryland. They just have a tendency to, every now and then you'll be like, wow, Maryland's beating Ohio State or something like that. So I'm comfortable being on, I would be comfortable being on Rutgers, but I'm not. This one's just a lean.
Yeah, didn't make my big board of games I initially liked, and certainly didn't make my notebook because of that. But this Gopher team is sneaky good. They're physical. They will hit you in the mouth. They can run the ball. Rutgers starting running back, the big-time running back, he's out for this game. I think that makes a difference. My lean would be go to the Gophers today.
All right, thanks, guys, for the question. We'll take a few more here.
Yeah.
We take off for the day. Next up, Navy versus South Florida, +4. Any thoughts?
Smooth Andy, any thoughts on that one?
No, that one didn't even pop up on my radar this week. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple games where, there seems to be a few games where I like favorites. This is another one that I kind of lean toward. Didn't make my big actually did make my big board. I feel like that Navy, after getting beat, past couple games, I feel like that line is down quite a bit. I think this is an opportunity to take Navy just on sheer principle. But again, I need to see what they're like. Again, Navy's schedule really came back to haunt them against Notre Dame. And it was, certainly a hangover game against Rice. Will it bite them again today? I don't know. We'll certainly see. I would lean toward Navy just on principle alone, because I feel like that the public sentiment has shifted on that Navy's like, oh, they're frauds, they're exposed, they're terrible. Navy still got some good players, still a good team. I'm not a big fan of this USF team. A huge fan of them. I would lean toward Navy, but again, not enough to tell you to put your money on it. Certainly not mine.
Definitely. Well, thanks for the question there. One more today before we wrap up. We're going to go to Trey on Twitter. Iowa State -2.5 question mark against a bad Kansas team. He goes, Andy's got to be on Kansas.
Not quite. I do have a lean. I have a lean on Kansas that popped up on me, but it wasn't enough to. It didn't get to enough indicators to cause a bet. But that would be the way I would lean with a gun to my head. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad Kansas team. I would lean toward Iowa State. They're just a really solid team, kind of an under radar team that nobody really even talks about. I would lean toward them. Again, didn't make my big board, didn't make my notebook, but I would lean Iowa State. Again, I'm leaning a lot of favorites today, but not necessarily in my notebook, but certainly on the questions for coming today.
They are coming off the Dream Crusher loss, though. That's one thing. The question is, are they going to be pissed off, or are they going to be more cowed by the fact that they lost last week? We'll see.
Definitely. Well, we got one more comment just trickled in. KXRT, he says Smooth Andy's on Florida, isn't he?
People are starting to figure out your pattern, Smooth Andy.
Yeah, I'm on. I am on Florida this week. Yes, I am definitely. Somehow that didn't. I messed up my spreadsheet. I just realized I have Florida, but it didn't show up on the indicators on the right. Anyway, I'll fix this, and I'll have to retweet my tweet. But yeah, I am on Florida this week. Got a lot of indicators for that. I guess that, like you said, they're probably reading my numbers pretty well. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got a pick on the side on that one, so I won't talk about it. But I feel pretty strongly about this game.
Awesome. Well, guys, it's been about 27 minutes. Any final thoughts before we wrap up and get an hour before kickoff?
Smooth Andy, any advice to the underdog faithful?
Well, at least this isn't the NFL, where underdogs apparently are not allowed to cover anymore. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to come out of this with a decent day. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you will. Look, again, looking to keep that streak going. I've won 7 out of 10 weekends. I'm counting on being 8 out of 11 today. Really like my picks. I especially love the NFL lines tomorrow. Look, went 3-0 on Thursday night. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be a big day for us. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for spending part of your Saturday with us. As always, guys, let's have a day and let's roll.